At KTM, the bad news just keeps coming. Production halted, suppliers keeping their distance, a massive funding gap, the loss of half the share capital, and the looming threat of asset write-downs. The historic motorcycle manufacturer is sinking deeper into the crisis than many had anticipated. How did things get this bad again? And is there still hope? That's exactly what we're going to take a closer look at now.
The good, the bad, and the ugly.
Actually, KTM planned to hit the ground running in 2025, but just 6 weeks after the challenging restart, production has come to a halt again. Starting April 28th, there's radio silence on the assembly lines in Mattighofen. The planned restart? At the earliest, end of July. The reason? After the late 2024 bankruptcy, the crucial components are unavailable. While KTM was able to assemble approximately 4,200 motorcycles in March and April, completing them using the existing inventory, those available supplies have now been entirely exhausted. Many suppliers have halted deliveries and have not yet restored their confidence in KTM, despite a restructuring plan that aims to secure 30% of the outstanding receivables and stabilize their financial position. Especially in the motorcycle industry, where many components come from specialized suppliers, the failure of just a few parts is enough to bring entire production lines to a standstill. Particularly affected are said to be electronic systems and engine components, precisely the areas where KTM recently aimed to expand significantly. But what does the shutdown mean for the future of the workforce, and how is KTM trying to prevent larger waves of layoffs? To avoid massive job cuts, KTM has taken an extremely drastic measure: short-time work for around 3,000 employees. Starting May 1st, 2025, the weekly working hours will be reduced to 30. Means roughly 20% less pay. Employees will switch to a 4-day work week, while many skilled workers will have to stay home entirely, receiving reduced compensation. This solution is meant to buy time, but it's expensive and gradually drains the available reserves. The longer the production shutdown persists, the more difficult it becomes to keep the company afloat amid rising pressures and challenges. Especially for skilled workers, the question arises of how long they will stay at KTM or whether they should start looking for new employers. But what about the urgently required financing, and why has the situation become so precarious and critical once again now? Even bigger than the problems in production is the financial hole. KTM urgently needs around 600 million euros to meet the requirements of the restructuring plan. The deadline for this expires on May 23rd. On April 4th, 2025, Pierre Mobility AG officially reported a drastic loss. The equity is projected to be in a significantly negative position by the conclusion of the year 2024. The loss of half of the share capital required an extraordinary general meeting to be held. The board proposed capital measures, a bank capital increase of 150 million euros and a capital increase in kind of 200 million euros, each at an issue price of 7.5 euros per share. The plan was as follows. Existing shareholders had the option to subscribe to new shares at 7.50 euros each. If some shareholders did not exercise their subscription rights, the main shareholder, Pierre Bajaj AG, would have taken over the remaining shares. At the same time, Pierre Bajaj planned to convert existing loans amounting to a total of 200 million euros into shares. This way, KTM would have reduced its debt to the main shareholder and simultaneously obtained much-needed equity capital. Could be built up. But on April 22nd, 2025, the sobering news came. The talks with investors turned out to be more challenging than expected. It became increasingly clear that the planned capital measures could not be implemented under the intended conditions nor within the originally anticipated timeframe. The decision-making process was removed from the agenda. Without fresh capital, KTM is now facing significant and mounting pressure. The publication of the 2024 annual financial statement had to be postponed as well, because without any binding financing commitments, the statement cannot be prepared under the assumption of continued operations. Instead, valuation risks liquidation levels, severely harming the company's image. Pierer Mobility intends to disclose at least provisional figures by the end of May 2025. The final annual report is set for May 30th, 2025, provided the necessary funds can be secured. Otherwise, a complete dismantling looms. How could the situation escalate so dramatically despite the restructuring plan and fresh start? And what responsibility does the management bear in this? In March 2025, an era came to an end when Stefan Pierer departed from KTM AG's board after over 30 years. The reins were taken over by Gottfried Neumeister, supported by the new board member Verena Schnegelberger-Grossmann. Officially, this change was supposed to build trust, yet many observers remain skeptical, as Pierer still holds the majority of shares through Pierer Mobility AG and could be behind the scenes. Even if KTM manages to resume production by the end of July 2025, the path forward is still fraught with challenges. Supplier relationships must be rebuilt, lost market shares recaptured, and investor trust carefully restored amid ongoing economic uncertainty. A successful reboot will crucially depend on whether it can not only overcome the current financing problems, but also strategically reposition itself. The restructuring plan is only the initial step of a lengthy process. Whether KTM can stabilize itself now largely depends on the weeks to come. A race against time and perhaps also for the soul of one of Europe's most iconic motorcycle brands. What do you think? Can KTM still manage to turn things around, or is the decline now inevitable?